Saul Cooper, the silent yet indispensable shadow of the Cooper family, found himself in the midst of a brutal battle, his breaths ragged as exhaustion clawed at his limbs. With his sword gripped tightly, he knelt upon the unforgiving ground, encircled by soldiers whose blades pointed ominously toward him. In a sudden twist of fate, a man strode forward, his accusatory words slicing through the tension. "Saul Cooper, as a shadow of the family, you have betrayed us for your own selfish desires. You colluded with the enemy in secret. In the name of the new head of the Cooper family, I order your immediate execution." Saul's eyes blaze with fury, his jaw clenched so tightly it feels as though his teeth might shatter. "Darn you!" he roars, defiance ringing in his voice. With a swift motion, Saul wrenches his sword from the ground and launches himself forward with the speed of a thunderbolt, intent on striking down his accuser. But before his blade can find its mark, pain explodes through his body as the soldiers converge upon him, their swords finding their mark in his flesh. As Saul's vision blurs with agony, his mind races, grappling with the bitter irony of his situation. "I dedicated my life to serving the family," he thinks bitterly, "only to meet my end at their hands. Is this how it all ends? Betrayed and abandoned?" But even as darkness threatens to consume him, a fierce resolve ignites within Saul's heart. With a roar that echoes like the fury of a dragon, he unleashes his final vow of vengeance upon his betrayers. "If there is an afterlife," he bellows, his eyes burning with hatred, "I'll tear every last one of you apart." The scene shifts to a dimly lit room where a young boy lies, covered in bruises. As he suddenly opens his eyes, confusion clouds his mind. "Where am I? Is this hell?" he mutters to himself, his gaze darting around the unfamiliar surroundings. Yet, despite the disorientation, a sense of familiarity tugs at his consciousness. Suddenly, a splash of water jolts him awake as a stern-looking woman stands before him. "Hurry up and wash yourself off. Someone will come to take you soon," she barks, her tone brusque and commanding. Turning his head to glare at her, our protagonist is met with a swift slap across the face. "What are you looking at, you stinky kid? Little brat who hasn't even fully grown wants to turn against me?" the woman scolds. Confusion clouds our protagonist's mind at the mention of little brat. However, as he catches sight of his reflection in the water, a wicked smile curls upon his lips. "Although I'm only 3 years old," he begins, his voice filled with newfound determination. "I, Saul Cooper, have actually been reborn." As memories of his previous life flood back, Saul recalls his role as a member of the infamous Shadows within the Cooper family. Trained rigorously from a young age, he and his fellow Shadows carried out the family's clandestine operations, enduring hardship in exchange for wealth and glory. As the illegitimate son of the family, Saul was determined to change his fate of being bullied. Through relentless training and determination, he rose through the ranks, earning respect and recognition. Yet, despite his loyalty and sacrifices, he was ultimately betrayed and framed by those he served. Learning the truth about the Shadow's existence shattered Saul's illusions. He realized that he had been nothing more than a pawn in the family's power games, used and discarded at their convenience. At that time, the young master's words cut through the silence, dripping with malice as he reveals the truth behind Saul's years of servitude. "To tell you the truth, from the day you became a shadow, I cast the shadow oath on you." The young master sneers, his smile twisted with contempt. "The strength you obtain from your training will be continuously transferred to me, while the damage I suffer will be borne by you. You are just a fool. You pathetic, dirty rat." Saul's fists clench in fury as the weight of betrayal crashes down upon him. Without a moment's hesitation, he lunges forward, his sword flashing in the dim light as he seeks retribution for the years of manipulation and exploitation. His sword strikes true, slicing through the air with deadly precision. But as the steel meets flesh, a shockwave reverberates through Saul's body, sending him staggering back in disbelief. The damage he intended for his enemy rebounds upon him with devastating force, leaving him wounded and vulnerable. Darkness encroaches upon his vision, and with a final, desperate gasp, Saul collapses to the ground, his life slipping away. With unwavering determination etched upon his face, he vows to himself that he will not allow history to repeat itself. "In this life, I swear to never let myself make the same mistake I made before," Saul declares. But as Saul contemplates his future, a more immediate concern interrupts his thoughts. The gnawing hunger in his stomach. His gaze falls upon a small mouse scurrying nearby, its tiny form a tempting prospect in his quest for sustenance. With a wicked smile playing upon his lips, Saul entertains the notion of indulging his hunger with the creature's flesh. Yet before he can act upon his impulse, Saul's solitude is shattered by the arrival of two men, their stern demeanor betraying their intentions. "You little trash. Master Alan wants to see you, so come with us," one of them shouts. Without hesitation, the two men seize Saul's arms, their grip unyielding as they drag him. As he is whisked away, Saul's thoughts drift back to his enigmatic past, a puzzle of fragmented memories and unanswered questions. "In my previous life, I was chosen to become a shadow, but all memories regarding the initiation had disappeared." Saul reflects, the pieces of his past slowly falling into place. With a sinking realization, he understands the true nature of his existence. A pawn in a game of power and deceit, bound by the sinister magic of the Shadow Oath. In the grip of desperation, Saul Cooper sinks his teeth into the hands of his captors, using the element of surprise to break free from their grasp. As one of them moves to strike him, Saul's reflexes kick in, and he dodges the blow with practiced agility. Seizing the opportunity, Saul wrests the man's sword from his grip, wielding it with a newfound sense of power. With a swift and decisive stroke, he slashes at his assailant, severing his arm and eliciting a cry of pain that echoes through the air. The other man recoils in horror, his eyes wide with disbelief. "This kid actually knows how to use a sword?" he stammers, his voice trembling with fear. With a sinister smile curling his lips, Saul holds the sword aloft, his eyes glinting with vengeful determination. "The opportunity for my revenge has come," he murmurs, his voice laced with malice. The scene shifts to the mansion of the Cooper family's main hall where we find young Master Alan Cooper vents his frustration upon his subordinates, his anger palpable as he berates them for their failures. "Trash," he snarls. "To be bullied by a wild dog. Did the Cooper family raise you for nothing?" But as Alan turns his ire toward Saul, a voice of reason intervenes. Hera Cooper, matriarch of the family, steps forward with a calm authority, her gaze steady and unwavering. "Wait, Alan," she says, her voice firm yet compassionate. "This boy has known nothing but neglect since childhood. It's no wonder he acts out." With a gentle yet firm hand, Hera guides her son's actions, reminding him of their greater purpose. "This isn't the time for punishment," she insists. "We have more pressing matters to attend to, like the oath-taking ceremony." Standing before her child, Hera imparts her wisdom. "Don't forget what I told you," she says, her voice carrying a weight of solemnity, "about what we have to accomplish today." As Alan broods over his mother's decision, his thoughts turn dark and resentful. "I have no idea why my mother chose this lowly trash as my shadow," he mutters to himself, his voice tinged with malice. "But mark my words, I will ruin him." With an evil smile playing upon his lips, Alan acquiesces to his mother's wishes, his mind already plotting his next move. "I'll do as you say, mother," he says, his tone dripping with venomous intent. After that, Hera Cooper addresses the assembly, her tone both reassuring and commanding. "All right, I'll bring these people out and won't disturb you, our future head of the family," she announces. With a serene demeanor, she directs her instructions. "Clear the place out except for young Master Alan. The rest of you, cast the soundproofing spell, and don't let anyone disturb the young master." "Yes, madam," the butler responds promptly, his loyalty unwavering. Meanwhile, Alan Cooper, heir to the Cooper legacy, stands at the center of attention, a chalice of holy water in hand. With a commanding presence, he raises the cup high, his voice resonating with power. "From this time forth, every one of you will become a member of the Shadow Army. Let us make an oath to the family." Without hesitation, the young members of the household echo his words, their voices resonating with determination. "In the name of Shadow, I swear to dedicate my entire life to the family. Our life was granted to us by the family." As they consume the holy water, a sense of lightheadedness overtakes them, and they collapse, unconscious, to the ground. With a smirk of disdain, Alan sneers. "What a bunch of fools. They couldn't even differentiate drugged water from holy water." Gripping a knife tightly, he inflicts a small wound on his finger, allowing a drop of blood to fall to the ground. Instantly, a dark formation is activated, and Alan's voice resonates with power. All of you will provide your strength to me, while all the harm I sustain will be suffered by you. His shadow extends outward, enveloping the fallen children, draining them of their essence. Alan revels in the surge of power coursing through him, a triumphant grin spreading across his face. I can feel power entering my body. The shadow oath. Did it work? I didn't expect this to be simple. I'm such a genius. I have to quickly tell this good news to my mother. But as he turns to summon Hera, a sudden pain grips his legs, causing him to collapse to the ground. His expression twists with confusion and alarm. Why can't I move my legs? He murmurs, a sense of unease settling over him. Could it be the aftereffect of the shadow oath? But my mother didn't say anything to me. As Alan Cooper crawls on the ground, tears mingling with his cries for his mother, a voice cuts through the darkness behind him. You're nothing but a coward, hiding behind your mother's protection. It sneers. But how unfortunate for you, she's ensured no one can hear your cries with a soundproof spell. Alan's blood runs cold at the realization, his face draining of color. As he turns, he's met with the menacing figure of Saul Cooper, leaning casually on his sword with a wicked smile. Saul Cooper, how are you awake, and how did you know about the shadow oath? Alan stammers, fear etched in his features. Saul's grin widens, his eyes gleaming with malice. That's not all I know. He taunts. And if I were to reverse the shadow oath, I wonder how you'd react, Your Excellency. Before Alan can comprehend the threat, our protagonist plunges his sword into the dark formation, eliciting a gut-wrenching cry of pain from Alan's lips. Stop! What are you doing? Alan pleads, his voice trembling with desperation. But our protagonist, his resolve unyielding, retrieves the sword from the ground and meets Alan's gaze with steely determination. I'm simply returning the favor, he declares, his expression grave. With each torturous moment, Alan's agony deepens, his screams echoing through the halls of the palace. Outside, Hera Cooper receives word that the soundproof spell has been dispelled, sending her into a panic. Alan! She screams, her heart gripped with fear as she rushes to her son's aid, unaware of the dark turmoil unfolding within the walls of her own home. In Alan Cooper's chamber, a scene unfolds that reveals the dark underbelly of the Cooper household. The butler enters, bearing news for Hera Cooper. Madam, the young master's body is fine. He fainted temporarily because he used too much magical power. He reports dutifully. And as for why the soundproof spell broke, one of the servants was distracted during the spell casting. I've already sent that person to be executed. Hera's response is chillingly indifferent. I got it. Feed the corpse to the dogs. She commands. Meanwhile, Alan is consumed by his own thoughts, murmuring to himself in confusion. Why do I feel that something happened, but I can't remember what? He mutters, his brow furrowed with uncertainty. His mother's gentle touch interrupts his introspection as she pats his head with a serene smile. Alan, you don't have to feel troubled over the shadows. The strong prey upon the weak in this world. She reassures him. But Alan's expression twists into a sinister grin as he pushes her hand away. How is that possible? I'm the future head of the Cooper family. Those wretched creatures should be born to sacrifice their lives for me, he declares with a cruel edge. Hera's delight at her son's viciousness is palpable as she embraces him tightly. As expected of my son. What rewards do you want? Feel free to tell your mother. She offers proudly. Thanks, mother. You are the best. Alan responds, his voice dripping with entitlement. Meanwhile, our protagonist observes the spectacle from outside, his tone mocking. What a deep bond between mother and son, he remarks. But what a shame. From this day forth, Alan Cooper has become my shadow. In the recesses of his mind, our protagonist delves into the memories of a past that shaped his current existence. It was a time when he stumbled upon a forbidden tome, a blood magic index containing the dark secrets of the Shadow Oath. Excitedly, he presented his discovery to the Cooper family, unaware of the fateful turn his life would take. Little did he know, his revelation marked him as the family's sacrificial lamb. But fortune smiled upon him as he delved into the depths of the index, combining its knowledge with the wisdom gleaned from stealing back his power in a previous life. Now, Armed with this knowledge, he knows the key to reversing the shadow oath lies in a simple exchange of blood, swapping places with Alan. Yet, despite his resolve, our protagonist acknowledges his current weakness. He is not yet capable of resisting the Cooper family's influence, and so he must embark on a journey to strengthen himself. With unwavering determination in his eyes, he declares the first step towards his goal. Passing the test at the Flaming Cliff. Created by the Cooper family to select strong shadows willing to sacrifice themselves, this trial is a grueling test of endurance. Children as young as 10 are thrown into the abyss, forced to trek through thorns and endure the relentless assaults of eagles pecking at their flesh. Even as their bodies scream in agony, they are forbidden from giving up until the first shadow scales the peak and receives the blessings of the eagle. In return, they are bestowed with a body invulnerable to harm, no matter the severity of the attack. At the Flaming Cliff, the tension hangs thick in the air as Enos Walker, the Shadow's training officer, addresses the new recruits with a solemn tone. "You only have 3 days," he declares. "Regardless of the method you use, there is only one objective for this test, and that is to reach the peak alive." His words carry a weighty warning as he adds, "Don't forget that deserters will be sentenced to death after 3 days." Among the assembled shadows, our protagonist stands with an air of calm determination, his gaze fixed ahead as he listens intently to the instructions. As Enos Walker prepares to signal the start of the test, he reaches for a whistle hanging from his neck and blows it sharply, the sound piercing the silence and signaling the commencement of the challenge. With a surge of adrenaline, the young shadows set off at a sprint, their feet pounding against the unforgiving terrain as they race towards the looming peak. But amidst the flurry of activity, our protagonist remains unfazed, his pace steady as he walks leisurely, a tune escaping his lips in a casual whistle. Enos Walker watches in surprise as our protagonist's composed demeanor stands out amidst the frantic rush of the others. "This kid is really composed," he remarks to the man beside him, curiosity evident in his voice. The man nods knowingly. "This is Saul Cooper, the illegitimate son who angered the young master yesterday," he explains. Enos's eyes widen in recognition. "Oh, it's that kid," he exclaims. As our protagonist begins climb up the cliff wall, the training officer and his assistant observe with a mixture of disbelief and amusement. "He didn't take the slope. He's scaling the cliff wall with his bare hands. He's probably going to fall without even reaching the halfway mark," one of them remarks. The training officer joins in with a derisive remark. "He is so stupid." Beside him, his assistant suggests a callous course of action. "Why don't we go over to collect his corpse now?" But the training officer dismisses the idea with a sinister smile. "No need," he declares, withdrawing a clock from his sleeve. "I suddenly thought of an interesting idea. Now is the perfect time for that guy to show up." Suddenly, a massive creature swoops down from the sky, its enormous wingspan casting a shadow over the trembling young shadows below. Panic grips the group as they cry out in fear. It's a monster. Meanwhile, our protagonist continues his ascent, oblivious to the chaos unfolding below. As he reaches the peak of the cliff, a chilling sight greets him. Numerous corpses of young shadows scattered across the rocky terrain, evidence of the relentless onslaught of the massive griffin. Just then, the training officer seizes the opportunity to further his own agenda. "He angered young Master Alan yesterday," he explains coldly, his hand tightening around his bow. "Why don't we take the chance to remove him by borrowing the griffin and make the young master happy?" As tension crackles in the air, Enos Walker, the training officer, takes aim with his bow and releases an arrow towards the majestic griffin. With lightning-fast reflexes, the creature dodges the attack. However, the griffin's irritation is palpable. "Who did it?" it roars. Locking eyes with our protagonist, the creature charges forward, its powerful claws crackling with energy as it prepares to strike. Reacting swiftly, our protagonist springs into action, leaping into the air with a graceful bound to evade the oncoming assault. With a deft twist of his body, he lands squarely on the back of the enraged griffin. "After experiencing my previous life," he murmurs, his voice tinged with determination, "I know that the only way to quickly scale to the peak and obtain the griffin's blessing is to tame it."